anxious to sing. And Josh is back there getting it all keyed up for you.
Yeah.
I know y'all are looking forward to it. So let's get on into what we're going to do tonight and see where we can get. Let me ask y'all a question as usual. Who was Nehemiah?
I know this.
Who is Nehemiah?
I know this. I've never even heard the name. Nehemiah.
Oh.
Was it the like the big building for God?
No.
No, it was what did he build? He built something.
He did.
And it took him a really long time.
The temple.
He got.
But you're right. You're in the right track there. I know what you're actually crossing two guys together, or not crossing them up, but actually get the two guys together.
And he didn't he get like some scrubs to help him?
Yeah, you see, in a way, yeah.
And was it a tower?
Was he trying to build a heaven?
I don't. Was it a wall? Or something like that.
He
built something.
He built a first house.
But close.
A house.
Let me ask this:
An altar.
there's two guys that go together. Nehemiah's one of them. Who's the other?
Noah.
No. Anybody?
A castle.
There are two books of the Bible. Since you've never heard of them, Nehemiah's got a book in the Bible. But the two books are right next to each other in the Bible as well.
Jose?
No.
Abednego, or however.
No, it's not in the Bible. You can actually look in the front of your Bibles and it'll tell you the answer to this one.
I've never heard it. I just thought it.
Not Ezra.
Yep, Ezra.
I wouldn't have made that connection, though.
All right, well, but now you were actually talking about the guy that built the temple. The guy that built the temple was Ezra.
They already got it.
That's what you was talking about.
What we did.
So who is Nehemiah? All right.
His son.
What? There. He did what?
Son of Hyde.
He built the wall. What was significant?
Son of
My mom said the wall.
Oh, I thought you said the temple.
No, I said a building, a wall.
Oh, I didn't hear you say wall. Okay, yeah, it
I
was.
wasn't sure.
But you were right. And see, that's why I was going to get you over with Ezra. Ezra rebuilt the temple. Yeah. And he also was the one that found the book of the law and read to the people and all that. When did this take place? Anybody know that? When did Nehemiah and Ezra, where were they at in the history?
Old Testament.
Yes, but where at? What significant event did they follow?
After the collapse of
2000
the,
BC.
or after the, not the Exodus that's in Exodus,
No.
but after the exile of, help me,
You're
the
there.
exile of
Babylonian.
Babylon.
The Babylonian exile, which lasted how long?
10 hours.
No,
40 years.
70 years.
70 years.
70 years. All right, so, what's that?
Oh,
No, they were in captivity under, well, starting with Nebuchadnezzar, under the Babylonians and then the Medes and Persians for a period of 70 years, which led into what would be the last from that point, from that exile until we end the New Testament and go to the Old, or go into the Old Testament and go to the New Testament. So.
and we actually, during our gospel gathering here one year, we had a preacher preach specifically on that. And that's why I remember, there was something about it too, like, weren't they very diligent in their work?
We're fixing to get into some of that. Well, I want to start it off with,
sermon.
yeah, well, and I'll go ahead and tell you, Nehemiah and Ezra are really pretty, they're kind of overlooked a lot of times in the Old Testament. They are, even by me. I mean, I just tend to kind of overlook that for some reason. And most people do, I think. They are the end of the history of the Old Testament, but they're not in the end of the Old Testament. The end of the Old Testament is what? What would you wait when you do the separations of the Old Testament, what does the end of the Old Testament fall under? It falls under the minor prophets. All right? Malachi will be the only, which is the last book of the Old Testament, that'd be the only one that was probably written after Ezra and Nehemiah. It was right there at the end. It was the end of the history that we know as the Old Testament. Now, let me tell you a little bit about who Nehemiah is. We're discussing Nehemiah tonight, if you haven't figured that out. That I entitled it, Do You Know Nehemiah? And there'll be some reasons why. So we're going to go through some verses, and everything we're going to go through is going to be in the book of Nehemiah. So it won't be too hard to find. You're already at Nehemiah. Just stick with Nehemiah. I want to read to you, first and foremost, I want to read from chapter 1, verse 1. We're answering, who is Nehemiah? The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hachaliah, and it came to pass in the month Chislev in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan, the palace. Shushan is the palace where they're in captivity. This is where Nehemiah is under Artaxerxes. So this is where he's at in his palace. All right, so we know this is Nehemiah. That's who Nehemiah is. He's that. Now I'm going to read to you verse 11. I'm going to skip down to verse 11. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant and to the prayer of thy servants who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him, or Nehemiah saying, grant me mercy in the sight of this man. That's the king Artaxerxes. And this is who Nehemiah is. For I was the king's cupbearer. Does anybody know what that means? What's a cupbearer? What's the king's cupbearer? Yeah, but what's the significance of it? Okay, you got to remember this is the king of the world. That's pretty. That's another thing about that. So, all right, the cupbearer is the guy that literally stands by the table for the king and the queen, and he serves them their drinks. The wine or whatever they were drinking and the cups are in him. He is entrusted solely with him. He's the one that gives it to the king. That's what a cupbearer is. And we'll go on later. We'll revisit that a little bit. All right. So Nehemiah is Nehemiah, and he's the king's cupbearer. Now, what's significant again about that is the fact that Nehemiah is a Jew, meaning he's in captivity in a land, and now he is one of the most trusted people in the whole kingdom. He's the cupbearer of the king. So that's pretty significant, I think. Let's focus up here. Y'all, we're getting really bad about this side conversation stuff here in church. And we got to quit it. Really, really. But anyway, he was also a nobleman. He was on the court of the king. So he's a bigwig. He's important, you know. He's a member of the king's court. He's not just a nobleman somewhere else. He's a nobleman within the king's inner circle. Now, he's also a diplomat. Y'all know what a diplomat or an envoy for the king is? Y'all know what that is? What a diplomat is? Someone that the king sends forth in his stead to represent the king. So look here. In Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 8, just at the very end of verse 8, it says this. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me. Now, right before that, he was asking this king that he's the cupbearer to, will you please let me go back to Jerusalem and rebuild it? Because he's found out that the walls of Jerusalem are still laid in waste some 70 years after it had been attacked and just destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. The gates are burned. The walls are coming. It's more than 7 years now because the first group of exiles have already went back to Jerusalem. They're living in Jerusalem with busted down walls, burned up gates. They're poor. They don't have much. And Nehemiah has found this out, and he's asked the king, would you grant me? It's 1,000 miles away. Would you let me go back to my old homeland that I've never been to, and let me rebuild these walls and these gates? Would you let me do that? And the king said, yeah. And not only that, the king gave him letters. If you'll read, we read right above that, he gave him letters of passage saying, y'all, this is my man, this is my diplomat, this is my envoy. You let him through and you give him everything he needs to do his job. So he was an important person in that sense too. Very important person. He was a governor, meaning that he ruled a land. In Nehemiah 5:14 it says this. Nehemiah verse 14, chapter 5. Moreover, from the time that I was appointed to be their governor, or in the land of Judah, over Jerusalem and all Judah, from the 20th year even unto the 2 and 30th year of Artaxerxes the king, that is 12 years, I and my brethren have not eaten the bread of the governor. Now, what we just found out is there's that proof of he was a governor. He was he was the highest man in the land of Judah. Nobody in the land of Judah had more authority or more power than Nehemiah. Now, I'm doing all this because I want you to understand who this guy is. He's really important. And think about people that you know that's in your mind that are very important people, powerful people, like a sheriff or a principal or go on up, Yeah, but just think about people that you know personally that are important people that in your mind. They're important. They get things done. They have things. They whatever, Think about those people. That's Nehemiah was this guy. He was this top dog. He was a big dude. All right? Understand that. He was also a servant of God. Back in chapter 1, Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 6 says this. Let thine ear now be attentive and thine eyes opening. This is Nehemiah talking to God. He's praying that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant. Nehemiah is calling himself a servant. And when you read on down, but what my point there was is that here's a man that's super important. I mean, he really is. He's a big league. He's a big dog. And he calls himself the servant of God. So that shows you what humility. It shows you that he loves God. All right, so we read right here, and we just kind of set up who Nehemiah is. Who is Nehemiah? But who is he all around? He's an important, powerful guy. I mean, he's that guy that could get anything he wanted. Right? I mean, he's a big guy. That's what. Now, let's look at the accomplishments of Nehemiah. All right, well, first off, we know already that he was the king's cupbearer. And like I was telling y'all a while ago, y'all, that honestly means that he would be, let me ask you this. Do y'all have somebody that you just fully trust? For kids, a lot of times it's a parent figure or something like that. But you just, there's somebody, everybody's got somebody in their life that they, honest to goodness, they trust them to always do them right. They trust them to always be honest with them or take care of them or love them. We all have somebody like that. And we may not even have somebody like that close to us, but there is somebody that we trust. You all know what I'm talking about. You understand that you fully and truly just trust.
I trust people.
I'm talking about it. Yeah, like your mom or your dad. No, that's what I'm saying. There's somebody. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your grandparent, it's your brother, your sister, it's your friend, it's a teacher, it's somebody. Everybody's got that one person they feel like that they're safe with and they can trust, and that they'll never do them wrong. That is the person that the cupbearer is. It's something because you know why? Back then, especially, they were people always wanting to kill important people. They wanted to kill the king. They wanted to do these kind of things. And that cupbearer was the guy that had the best chance of being able to kill him. Not only that, here's a guy that you better be able to fully trust because, well, he could if he didn't like him. But then what if he did like the king and he liked his job, but then somebody comes along there and offers him, hey, I give you $10 million, dude. He said, I'm not even asking you to do nothing. All I want you to do is leave that cup sitting there, and I want you to turn around and walk over there and come back. $10 million. That's all you got to do.
Everybody else will see.
Oh, no. Nobody else is going to see it. Now, so the point is this.
I will.
Amen. I agree with you. But now, just think about this. Now, this is so you've got to have a guy that is so trustworthy, that is somebody that you trust so much that even if they were offered something, like, well, let me make it crazy, like $1 billion. I mean, with $1 billion, you can have anything you want and never have to do anything that you don't want to do. No, not necessarily. I mean, you'll have so much money, you can actually get away from it. You get offered $1 billion, and yet you're going to say, and let's say you get offered $1 million and you got nothing, you ain't never had nothing, you get to do it, work all the time, you're hungry all the time, and yet this guy would still say no. No way am I going to allow you to get rid of it. That's the guy. That's who Nehemiah is. That's an accomplishment. I want you to understand. That means that he was so loved and trusted that this king trusted him to be his cupbearer. That's an accomplishment. And not only that, he was a guy that was not from that country. He wasn't even the guy that's supposed to be able to. Now let me give you a few other ones. This is the Schofield Bible. You got a Schofield Bible, study Bible. This is a list that they listed of accomplishments, and I'm just going to read them off to you. Nehemiah got to go back to Jerusalem. The king came to rebuild the wall. So he examines the broken walls of Jerusalem. There's some significance to that. I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I encourage you to read Nehemiah this week. It's a pretty awesome book. It's only 13 chapters long. Okay? He examines the broken walls of Jerusalem. He gathers Jews to support the rebuilding. And this is kind of where what you was talking about, Wendy. Because there's a lot of poor people in this town now. I mean, in Jerusalem, there's a bunch of folks. I mean, there's some, of course, there's always going to be some rich people around, but for the most part, they're poor. They don't have nothing. They're living in shacks and burnt-out places and stuff like that. But he gathers these people up to support rebuilding this wall. He then assigns sections to people to rebuild this wall. He, instead of trying to put together a construction crew and we rebuild the wall all around, he gets individual folks, he gets families, he gets noblemen, he gets priests, he gets certain people, and he says, this is what I need you to rebuild. You and your family, you and your group, whatever it may be. And it tells you about them. It lists them out in the book. It tells you. All right, and he gives them sections to rebuild. Some people have long sections, some people have. One guy, it talks about, his house was on the wall, the exterior wall, so his outside wall was the wall of the city, and he simply rebuilt that part of the wall. That's it. That's all he had to rebuild. That was his assignment. But, that was the thing, he had an assignment. But he armed those workers in case they were attacked, because you see, there were some threats on them. So Nehemiah now has accomplished taking a bunch of ragtag folks and turning them into an army too. And he got them armed. He was able to arm them and give them weapons for defense. He got officials and nobles to cancel the debts of those poor people. That's pretty big. And most rich folks don't want to cancel out their debts and not get their money back. That's what people are. Nobody wants to cancel out debts and not get their money back. And he got them all to do so. He completed the rebuilding of the walls. You know how long it took him to rebuild a wall around the city?
Years.
It took him 52 days.
But that ain't nothing.
No, that's not long at all. No, we can't even do that nowadays. That's a 12-year project right there. Yeah, there you go. But so think about that. Think about this now. This is an accomplishment because he rebuilt the walls of a city in 52 days, including building gates. No. Hey, you want to know what the size was? It's in here too. It'll tell you. And it's not small. And he rebuilds this. And I'm not talking about he built a nice little old wall, rock stone fence around it like this. This is a fortified wall that is a defense, so armies can't get in. Well, I mean, it's better than the Trump wall. I mean, this is a wall, y'all. All right, so he does that in 52 days. All right, let me keep on going here. He did. We'll get to that. He reviewed the genealogies of the returned exiles. Now, to us, that don't mean much, but it does to the Jews because everything's based on your family, and it allows for you to continue to be a priest, or to continue to be a Levite, or to continue to be an Ethnic, or to continue to be a noble, or to be whatever it is that you're allowed to be by your family name. And he reviewed those genealogies. He actually found some folks that were imposters, kicked them out, does all those things. He manages to do this. resettles part of the population in Jerusalem. He takes Jews from all around Judah and he sets it all up, and he gets some to come live there so that it's an actual city and got a lot of folks in it that can take care of things and all, and turns it back into a city. He sends out the priests and Levites. And you got to understand, when you're reading about the Jews, y'all, everything's based on where the priests and the Levites, they have to go and be in places and things like that. You get that from all the historical books and stuff. And so he arranges all this. I mean, he takes care of this. He then confronts, okay, well, let's stop right there. On those things that we've discussed already, he done that in that very short period of time, and then he goes back to be the cupbearer. Because he promised the king he'd come back and finish that. He later gets to come back and rule as the governor. When he comes back, he confronts the people about their sins. You see, he had already set up, Ezra had found the book of the law, had read it to them. Everybody finds out that they've done all these bad things and wrong things. And they feel bad about it. They repent. They do these things. Nehemiah goes back, sees the king, stays with him. It's believed to be a couple of years before he makes it back to Jerusalem again. He finds out that they're living in sin. They're profaning the Sabbath as he did. But he confronts the people about their sins. He reinstates the use of the tithe. They've not been tithing. And the significance of that is that the priests and the Levites, they don't have jobs. They don't have gardens. They depend on those tithes that's been set up by Moses, the law. They depend on that in order to be able to live, to eat, and to have a home, and to do those things. And the people have quit tithing. So these guys are having to scatter and not do their jobs, and they're having to go out, and so God's work's not being done. So he reinstates the tithe. He reinstated the Sabbath observance because they had started working and buying and selling and doing whatever on the Sabbath, just like on any other day. So he reinstates that. He shuts all that down. He rebukes those who marry foreigners. You have to understand, this is the significance. Back then, the Jews were not allowed to marry certain people of different countries because they weren't allowed to. They were God's chosen people. And that relates to us in this sense. Don't be unequally yoked. And some of you young folks that are they won't be much longer, and you'll be looking into the possibility of marriage and stuff like that. Let me tell you what, if you are a Christian, if you are saved, your mate better be saved too. And if you go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to your mate.
What did you think you said?
I'm not going to even go there. Your mate better be saved too, because if you think you're going to change them, the Bible tells us that very likely they're going to change you. And if not, then you're going to suffer some misery. So I want to encourage you, if you're saved, if you're a Christian, in the person that you choose to accept as your husband or wife, I encourage you to make sure they're saved also. It's going to make your marriage an unbelievably better thing. I want you to understand that. Nehemiah, and that was a lot of times when we look at the things that happened to the Israelites and the laws and rules, it all applies, but it applies to the church in a different way. So I encourage you, that's coming. Be looking for a Christian husband or wife, girlfriend or boyfriend. It'll make a difference in your life, I promise you. The blessings will be in it. And if not, I just encourage you to keep on trying, because the Lord hears you. And when it ever happens, when you and your spouse are both godly people, I can assure you the blessings that come from that are just unbelievable. So keep trying. If you're not there, keep trying. If you are there, praise the Lord for it. Those were the accomplishments that were listed. Now, we've established, I'm trying to hurry on through. We've established that Nehemiah's what? Powerful guy. Most powerful people are real humble and easy to get along with, ain't they? No, not. I mean, they're used to having it their way. I mean, it's a natural thing. Because what? I mean, naturally, it is natural.
They are simple.
Yeah. What else are they? I mean, really? They're powerful. They'll look down on people that's not. They'll look down on other people that are, because that's just the way it is.
Because no one is more powerful.
Do what?
Because no one is more powerful.
That's, yeah. I mean, and there's not a lot of humility in the rich and famous. there's not a lot of those kind of things, all right? Well, let's see something. Nehemiah is one of the most powerful men in an entire, well, basically the world, because the Medes and Persians actually had conquered pretty much all of the known world. So Nehemiah is one of the most powerful men in the whole world. He's power. That's power. That's power beyond anything we've ever been around when it comes to people. Now, with all that accomplishment, surely Nehemiah must have been pretty proud and arrogant, don't you think? I mean, think about it. He's powerful. So do you think he was? You think he was? You think he was arrogant? You think he was proud?
He probably had to talk to some family groups.
I'm willing to agree with that one for certain. Well, let me read something to you real quick, and this is going to wrap us up. So y'all can get to singing. That's how they go in there. I'm going to read to you verses 10 through 31 of chapter 13. It's the last chapter of Nehemiah. Verses 10 through 31. Y'all listen up. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled every one to his field. And this was because they were not tithing. Then contended I with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Now right there you can kind of think, well, here is a powerful guy. He just took the rulers and he said, y'all get your hind ends over here and you get there and sit down and listen to what I got to say. So yeah, there's definitely authority in Nehemiah. They brought all Judah the tithe of corn and the new wine and the oil under the treasury. See, he got hopping. They're bringing their tithes in now. And I made treasurers over the treasuries, Shelemiah the priest and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites, Pedaiah. Next to them was Hanan, the son of Zachar, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful. See hear that? They were trusted. They had the respect of a powerful man. They have the trust of a powerful man. Y'all, that's important. It's important that you have the trust, especially as a Christian. You want people to trust you. And their office was to distribute unto their brethren. It was their job to take in all these tithes and then equally distribute it out to the Levites, the singers, the priests, to all those people. This is what I want you to listen. Remember me, O my God. This is Nehemiah concerning this. And wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for the offices thereof. We'll keep going. In those days saw I in Judah some trading in wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves and lading asses, also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, or didn't our people do this? And then God brought all this evil upon us, the exile, and upon this city, destruction. Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And this is just a few years after he had revealed to them that you can't be doing this thing. They learned the law again. So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged outside of Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? If ye do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Listen, remember me, O my God, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, and their children spake half the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our God, and marry strange wives? And one of the sons of Joiada, the son of Eliashib, the high priest was son-in-law to Sanballat the Horonite, therefore I chased him from me. Chased him off. Remember them, O my God, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and of the Levites. Thus cleansed I them from all strangers, and appointed the wards of the priests and the Levites, everyone in his business, and for the wood offering at time appointed, and for the first fruits. So listen here, the last words of the book of Nehemiah. Remember me, O my God, for good. Now I wanted to read those for this, for you to get an idea, again, of the power of Nehemiah. He was a very powerful man that had his way. He ruled. And he did all these great things to try to bring Israel or Judah back in the good graces of God. And in 3 different places in that reading right there, verse 14, verse 22, and verse 31, he says, remember me, O my God. I want to read just the significance. In verse 14, he said, remember me, O my God, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for the offices thereof. For the house and the workings of God and for the people. He begged God to allow these people to never turn from God again. That's what he was saying. I've done these things. He's not bragging about the things he's done. He's begging God. He's humbly begging God, please don't ever let him turn away again. We now know, don't ever let him turn away again. He's begging God to let him turn away. He's not looking for anything for himself. He's asking God for the people. In verse 22, it said, and I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the days to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my God, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy. I want you to listen to this. Understand this. Nehemiah done all kinds of great and good things for God. He done a lot of really great things. He was that guy. He was that Mother Teresa. Done no wrong, by gosh. Never done anything for himself, done it for everybody else. He was a really great guy. He was the Christian of Christians, kind of, so to speak. And you know what he said? You know what he done? He recognized still that he was filthy in the eyes of God and God would see him. And because of that, he needed the mercy of a perfect God. A man so powerful as him, one of the most powerful men in the entire world, and he recognized, he was humble enough to recognize even he needed the mercy of God. Most people have a problem with that, especially those rich and powerful. Verse 31 simply said this, remember me, O my God, for good. He wanted to be remembered by God, not for recognition, not for me. He wanted to be remembered because he wanted to be good for God. He wanted the people, he wanted Israel to be remembered for good. He wanted to be good for God. He was completely unselfish. He was powerful. He was rich. He was everything that so many people say that they want to be when they grow up and more. He was humble to the Lord. We need to be humble to the Lord, y'all. We need to always submit to the Lord and give him whatever. It's all God's. No matter how big you get, and some of you gonna be successful. Some of you gonna make it. Don't forget God, and don't forget the ones that's behind you. Nehemiah did. He took care of them. He got their debts raised. He fed them. He done for them. He remembered them. He was humble. He sought God first. Always seek God first in your life, y'all. And like I said, I encourage you, read the book of Nehemiah this week. Study it. It's pretty good. You can read Ezra too. It's pretty good too. I'd encourage you. Try it out. All right, let me get some prayer requests real quick, and we will get y'all some. Yes, sir.
I have a friend, he had to have surgery today. He went to the hospital, he was at treatment, busted. Yeah, Taylor, he was on that spot.
Is everything?
They admitted him yesterday, Sacred Heart, and today around mid-morning, they ended up deciding to go ahead and do surgery. His appendix was perforated, and so they had to fix it.
Oh, yeah.
Hillary had texted around 2 or 3 this afternoon and said that it went well. He was just good.
Good to hear. Y'all remember Mr. Taylor? Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about. Gotcha. Yes, sir, Mr. Will.
Granny B.
Grandby? Yes, sir.
Mom and Ada.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Corey. Did you go to? Yes, sir.
That face has a great night's sleep.
Thank you. She could use it, I think. She's only slept she only slept about 16 hours last night.
I did.
I know, and she got up at like 10.
No, I got to 7.
Oh, my bad.
Oh
All right.
my gosh.
And we all don't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Hey, I sleep late.
He don't
sometimes.
anymore.
Actually, yeah, I do.
You started back waking up.
Oh, I'm up at, I was up at 2:55 the other morning.
What's the point of it?
You know what that does for me? Honestly?
Drives you crazy.
No. Dude, I get to spend, now I got 2 or 3 hours I get to pray every time. That's pretty awesome. And that's what I do, I get up.
And it's his only time to do it morning.
Well, it's,
No,
yeah,
no, he gets to do a long time every day.
yeah, early in the morning.
No, whenever you feel like.
I know I do not,
everybody else
your
has.
mama is just all the time, just right there wanting to follow me
No,
everywhere.
you keep everybody else around.
That's it. Yes, ma'am.
My grandfather, Bill Johnson,
How's,
he had some tests done Monday, they're just waiting to talk with the thoracic surgeon. So there's a spot or spots that were found on his lower lung. But that's also the side when he wrecked his motorcycle, that all of that was broken. So in order to do a biopsy, it's not gonna be a pulmonologist, it has to be a thoracic surgeon, because all those ribs are broken. So,
is it possible these spots are something from that? I mean,
they really don't have any answers, so the biopsy, as long as the biopsy can happen, that should give them more answers.
keep on.
It can be done.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, is that it can always be something. All right, anybody else? Absolutely.
He's lived a good long life, he's 82.
And we're still gonna pray for it.
Marcia Harris.
Marcia Harrison?
Remember, she had cancer a while back. Christy said that, she did get some good news yesterday, that they have her first test. So just be praying for it. It is good, but it doesn't last.
Okay. Y'all remember Miss Marcia Harrison? Anybody else? All right. All righty then. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Y'all continue to remember Louis Powell. And, well, he's supposed to be going,
He
for
had
his-
to, yeah, he goes to 16.
yeah, for his scan.
Yeah.
Y'all do remember.
Yeah, she spends time with Aunt every day. She just like, pray for her, too.
Oh, she needs it.
She's discouraged.
Oh, and that's tough. That's real tough.
She's thinking,
I'll just understand.
depends on the day. Some good days, some bad days.
That's between him and the Lord.
Yeah, that's what comes from the Lord.
You just keep praying. That's the best thing we can do. All right, anybody else? We're good? We're good? Anything new on Rush? What? Anything? Okay, making sure your brother done got all over that. I hope y'all pray for our shop. Nigeria, and all of that. All right, who wants to lead us in prayer tonight? Will, you got us? Everybody, y'all, let's bow our heads and pray.
cholesterol